Good evening, everyone. I'm Jawan Strader, and thank you so much for watching our virtual NBC6 Voices on our Facebook and YouTube pages. But as many of you already know by now, last Thursday morning, hundreds of lives changed forever after this. A building collapsed happened in Surfside at the Champlain Towers South building. At 1 a.m., part of the building plummeted to the ground, leaving, as of right now, 12 dead and 149 unaccounted for as search and rescue efforts continue. An engineering firm found cracking in the building's concrete columns, beams, and walls. The report also found concrete slabs underneath the pool as well, showing signs of distress needing to be replaced. Crews began working on the roof and had plans to fix the other issues as well. You're looking at video of search and rescue efforts as they continue at the building. Now in Broward and Miami-Dade County, buildings participate in a 40-year inspection program, but now officials are wondering if these inspections should happen sooner in order to avoid other catastrophes like this one in the future. Here with me today is Yaniv Levy. He is the president of Coast to Coast General Contractors, Inc., and he is here to talk a little bit more about the process, about building structure, and things that many of us really don't know, and also what you can look out for in the future if you live in a building, in a condo building, in a high-rise building, and if you have worries and different things to maybe look out for. So, Yaniv, welcome to the show.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, let's get right to it. Let's talk about the basics first and foremost. Let's talk about the recertification process and concrete restoration. What is the process? What does it detail?
So, concrete restoration is essentially a repair that you need to do on an existing structure, structural elements for the building, whether if it's a slab, overhead repair, a column, or a beam. There are different types of repair protocols administered by a professional, a structural engineer, and a contractor like myself who specializes in these type of concrete repairs would come in and basically repair the entire structure if need be, or specific areas on a structure. There are many different types of repair protocols and type of materials to be used depending on on what is specified by the engineer. Many of these buildings along here in South Florida, they have to go through these annual concrete restoration or maintenance repairs on their building. Many times these condos need to get painted. We recommend every 7 to 10 years to have your condo painted, because of the fact that paint is not only an aesthetic purpose, it's also a weatherproofing. It helps protect the structure. So we'll be able to get into some of these some of these options and those condos and associations can do to be proactive. But concrete restoration essentially is the repair of a structural element on the building.
Now, we've been seeing, Yaniv, reports of the cracking that was going on in the building. And you're familiar with that because your company put in a bid that was pretty much denied by Champlain Towers. Can you tell us about that and what you saw, what your company saw?
Yeah, so we've provided multiple bids for Champlain Towers and many condos in the area over the years. I have a very large and aggressive sales team. So we've been approached on numerous occasions to actually give pricing, whether if it was for painting or miscellaneous repairs or whatever improvements were needed. We were called out about in 2018. We were asked to give a price. We gave them a price to paint the exterior envelope of the building, as well as to perform repairs for a 4-year recertification process. We were also asked to possibly recommend some different engineering firms who can help them, who can assist them and help them get their certifications. We went ahead and we submitted pricing. We recommended engineers. But ultimately, we never heard back from the association, which it's common. It could be that a change of management or a change of board, and they felt that they wanted to go with a different contractor or in a different manner, or possibly even reevaluate the entire project, for budgetary constraints or concerns.
Okay, Yaniv, let's get right to it. Okay, so because you're talking to a lot of people that don't even understand how this all works as far as structure is concerned, including myself. So I want to know, when your company went into the towers and you did put in a bid for different things, did you see things that could possibly cause a tower to collapse based on what you saw?
So the answer is no. We have never seen anything like this in my industry. I've visited many different condos under distress and in dire need of repair. And in my opinion, when I was at the site or when I was reviewing the bid and doing my analysis, I never saw pictures or evidence of structural failures to the point where the building was going to cave in and collapse. So the answer to your question is no. But when we were walking the building and we had a little pre-construction meeting, we did see signs of structural deficiencies, defects, any repairs that were needed to take place. We had signs of spalls and corrosion throughout the structure, throughout all the balconies. It was
But nothing that caused alarm.
Nothing that caused alarm. No, sir.
And so the fact that it was near the water, we have a lot of buildings near the water. It's come up geologically speaking. Could that have played a part? The ground underneath, we know about the water, and some of the pictures that we've shown that the Miami Herald took, were able to get, access to those pictures. So would that have been a factor?
Definitely, you can make an argument. There's many theories that are going around right now. Possibly erosion at the foundation level. We have issues with tides, king tides here in South Florida. This building was known to have, pump systems installed because they had such heavy tide water infiltrations. Also, it was known that this deck had water intrusion issues leaking into the garage for many years. So all these things could play into a role for this catastrophic event, but it's going to be very hard to pinpoint one specific issue, one specific failure, which was the cause for the building to go down in the manner it did.
Well, we got to make sure that this never happens again, first and foremost. This can never happen again. As you said, it's the first time you've seen it, and you've been doing this definitely longer than I have, because I'm just learning all this stuff you're telling me. But this can never happen again. So a few things before we let you go. I want you to explain rebar. Sure. We keep on hearing rebar tossed around. Rebar is what strengthens the concrete, correct?
That's correct. Rebar is reinforcement inside of the slab and helps with the compression strength of the concrete.
And so when I see pieces of rebar sticking out of a wall, which some people said that they saw, and is that cause for concern? Is that what I should look for if I'm in a building that's older?
Most definitely. That's one of the signs of deterioration. It's definitely a call for concern, and it's something that needs to be repaired in a timely fashion. Just because you see a spall, when we refer to a rust stain on the building or a piece of rebar you see corroded, we like to call it a spall. That's the industry term. When you see spalls, typically it doesn't mean that that your balcony, God forbid, is going to collapse, but it is a sign of corrosion, and it needs to be addressed. Corrosion spreads. That's why everyone in the industry is using examples of corrosion as cancer. How cancer, God forbid, spreads through the human body. So does corrosion. It spreads through the structure. It spreads through the slab, and the rust is a major issue as far as for the concrete restoration world, because it needs to be repaired. There are certain protocols into repairing the concrete. You have to excavate. You have ICRI standard repairs that you need to follow. The ICRI is the Concrete Restoration. It's a Concrete Repair Institute, and they have guidelines on how you repair existing structures or existing structural elements. There are type of treatments you need to apply to the concrete or to the rebar once you actually remove all the surface rust, and you want to treat that concrete to prevent further corrosion in the future.
Okay, Yaniv Levy, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and adding some expert insight into this and what to look out for, because you best believe there's a lot of concern going on across South Florida and other parts of the country that live in a high-rise building. So thank you for adding insight. I'm sure this is not the last time I'll be speaking with you. So thank you so much for coming on this show.
And thank you for having me. And you know, I'm just looking to use these platforms to help educate condo owners, associations on how to be proactive to maintain their structures. A lot of these deficiencies and these deteriorations could be avoided if you have proactive condo associations, you have proactive residents who are involved and who want to help protect their investments and their buildings.
Amen to that. Yaniv Levy, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, you got it. All right, please welcome Commissioner, Miami-Dade Commissioner Oliver Gilbert to the show. He is joining us now this evening. He has been in Surfside. He's been at the site since Thursday, along with a number of other county and local city officials there. And Oliver, welcome to the show. We have you muted right now, Commissioner. Could you fix that? Right, there you go. We got you.
Thank you for having me, Juwan.
No problem. Well, first and foremost, your feelings, Commissioner, and what you've seen there at the site. And I just want to know what's gone through your mind.
Juwan, I got to tell you, it's not like anything I'd ever seen before. So the level of just destruction, when you look at that site, when you stand very close to it and you actually see, you can actually see the evidence of people's lives that were being lived. And I couldn't help but just think about the fact that they laid down in their beds with plans like you and I have. We have plans to get up in the morning and walk our dogs and play with our kids and go shopping, and the building came down. And so when you can actually see the evidence of their lives in that rubble. And so it's tragic beyond imagination, comprehension, or expression. And so there's no real way to capture it. I know you see the images on TV, but Juwan, I promise you, when you see it in person, it's just different. It really is just different.
And Commissioner, have you had any time, or have you been able to speak with any family members of those that are still unaccounted for?
Yeah, I've been over to the Family Reunification Center several times, and listen, their sadness and anger and frustration is understandable. You can't, because if it were my son or my mom or my grandmother in that rubble, and I would want you to move faster. I would want you to do more, but
yes.
I hug them and I absorb their tears and their frustration and their anger, whatever it is, because I understand that, but for God, I could be in their position. I understand that we need to do our best, and that's what we're doing. We're doing our best with over 350 search and rescue people on site right now. We're doing our best with the best search and rescue team in the world in Miami-Dade's unit. You know, the city of Miami's unit is world renowned. We have a Mexican unit. We have an Israeli unit. We've done units from all across the state, all across the world, to try to bring any survivor home, and definitely to bring closure to families, poor families.
And what do you think about all the volunteers? And is there anything that you see is needed that is not there, or for those that are watching right now and they're listening to you and they're like, I want to help, I want to do my part. Do you see a need? Because I see the community coming out in full force.
You know what? We have water and food and clothes, and we have storage problems for those issues. But listen, go to helpsurfside.org and donate. And listen, if you can't donate, I can't express this enough, Juwan. Just pray. Just
Amen.
pray. Just continue to pray. Listen, our first responders are out there as a matter of duty. They're not going to quit. They duty bound to try to find someone to actually help survivors. We need the fervent prayers of the righteous avail of much. We need to pray, because when you stand there and you see that building, you see how that building pancaked, and it pancaked with human lives and souls in it. You know that we need God in that moment. We need God to help in this moment.
And you and I, we go to the same church, so you got that right, my brother. So I want to ask you this. I want to ask you about what the county plans to do to make sure something like this never happens again. As you know, there's a 40-year recertification process. Yeah. I understand there's an audit that's going to be going on. So I want to know, should it be a 30-year recertification process? How can we prevent something catastrophic like this from ever happening again?
You know what? We're going through that right now. We actually started the audit of those buildings. I don't know whether it should be a 30-year, and I don't know what went wrong here. So the first step the first step in all of this is actually finding survivors if there are some. The second step
Yeah.
is giving closure to the families if necessary. The third step is finding out what went wrong, how it went
That's
wrong,
right.
and making sure it never goes wrong again. So I know a lot of people have been, you know, they're in a hurry to actually rush to say we need to do this and we need to do that.
Yeah.
I want to get all the facts first, because it could be that this could be human error in a system that was working fine. I don't know what happened. I want to know what happened before I actually decide what needs to happen. But
I
the
was about
one
to
thing
say,
that,
I mean,
yeah,
you're an attorney. Do you
yeah.
think this is criminal? I mean, do you think this is something that could be criminal?
Listen, Juwan, the very first thing when we went through our initial briefing, and I was there Thursday, I said, hey, have we called in the state attorney? Because if there was a duty, there was a breach of that duty. Because of that breach, someone was harmed and killed. That's negligent homicide. We need to actually have that conversation. We need to be actually looking at this as a crime scene. And you know what? Our police department, Freddie, all those folks, they were already on top of it. The state attorney's office, they were already on top of it. Everyone understands that people lost their lives here, and there's going to be an accounting. But before we can get to that, you know, we need to make sure we do everything we can to make sure that anyone that could be alive under there is actually saved. We need to do everything we can to bring closure for these families, because if we're our families, we would want that.
Amen.
We want that. And so we're going to give it to them.
That's right. Very well said. Commissioner, thank you for joining us on Voices. As always, we really appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. And as many of you know out there, a tragedy like this will have lasting impacts on the mental health of those who have witnessed it. That includes survivors, families, first responders, journalists, and everyday Americans. Well, Dr. Delvina Thomas is here with me today. She's a psychologist and advocates for mental health. Dr. Delvina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jawan. How are you?
I'm okay. But definitely my heart goes out to all those impacted by this, and so many. And that's why we always like to bring you on in tough times like this, because a lot of us tend to ignore our mental health, and we know the importance of that. And so I want to ask you to describe the impact of something like this on those that may be even watching this. They're seeing the images every day, but those that are out there, talk about that. Talk about the psychotrauma and how it applies to the situation.
Yeah, sure, Jawan. So traumatic experiences can arouse very powerful and disturbing feelings in us, which usually settle in time without any professional help. Not everyone requires treatment for traumatic stress. However, some people, if their symptoms don't improve or get better, they may need professional help. And when I say people, I'm not just referring to the folks who have family members who were in that building, or the frontline workers, or the search and rescue folks, the politicians who are out there, the community who's out there. I'm also referring to the community who's watching and seeing all of the footage. All of the things that we see on the news, these things can be traumatizing to us as well. There's something called vicarious traumas. And so we're all going through this together. In the days and the weeks that follow trauma, it's common for us to have a flurry of unpredictable emotions, physical symptoms. Certain things happen in stages after you've been traumatized or after you experience a trauma. Most people feel shock. They are stunned. They feel cut off from their feelings. People around them, they look at them and they think, okay, why is she smiling and something majorly traumatizing just happened? And it's because that person is in shock. We've seen some of the videos and the things that people have posted of interviews and people who survived it. A woman was smiling and someone said, why is she smiling? Why is she looking that way? It's because this is her response to the trauma. Everyone responds differently.
That's right.
To be stunned or dazed is a normal reaction. People are in denial also. People cannot believe something like this has happened. And so after about several hours or a few days, we then go to another stage of feeling just a myriad of different emotions and symptoms. We're frightened, we feel helpless, we're angry, and some of us feel guilty. We feel guilty that we may have survived it, or why wasn't I included? Why did I live? Why did they die? There's intense sadness. And so eventually you want folks to get to a point of feeling relief and being hopeful again. And then after that, Jawan, comes the symptoms of what we call acute stress disorder. These are the symptoms that can happen in 30 days or less following the trauma. And then after 30 days, you can have symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Again, the intense sadness, feeling nervous, feeling anxious, jumpy, high alert, being irritable, angry, having difficulty sleeping, all of the intrusive thoughts or the memories about the traumatizing event that occurred, avoiding people and places and memories that remind you of what happened.
And I want to be sure to throw up a few numbers on the screen. We see your phone number here. If we need help or want to reach out, if we need some sort of somebody to talk to, there's a number on your screen right now. Now, this is Dr. Delvina's number, 305-981-1700. That's one number. We also have some other numbers as well. And I want to continue to throw up these numbers throughout. We want to provide resources for all of you that are watching this. All of you, if you need something, if you need some help, understand there is someone to listen there for you. There's someone on the other end of that line that will give you the mental health help that you need. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Understand that we all go through something, and understand that we all need to let it out and get it out in some form, shape, or passion. So with that said, I want to continue now. You talked about PTSD. Now, I want to know about the search and rescue teams that go out there. Now, I know they do this all the time, but I don't know if you can ever prepare yourself, psychologically speaking, for what you may go through. And have you seen that? I mean, how do you prepare for a tragedy like this if you're out there in search and rescue? And what should I look out for? What are the signs?
Yeah. So you can sort of prepare yourself, let's say, by having a healthy lifestyle, eating good nutrition, sleeping, drinking plenty of water, hydrating your brain. Those are the things that we talk about when we say prevention, and we talk about trying to prevent ourselves from experiencing the depression, the sadness, the anxiety. But there's certain amounts of trauma. It depends from person to person on what may affect a person and how they may respond. People who do a job like this on a consistent basis, they may be holding up throughout the process, throughout all of these different tragedies. But sometimes what happens is when they slow down or they take a vacation, or oftentimes what I've seen in my private practice is when people retire, they're no longer busy, they're not preoccupied with something else, and things start to flood back. And so one of the things that someone who has a job as a first responder, whether it's a firefighter or a police officer or someone in the military, search and rescue, they should include mental health and wellness as a part of their daily regimen, their treatment plan. Besides seeing their primary care doctor, they should also see a mental health professional to just sit down and process, because they may not feel it in the moment or while they are addressing that tragedy or going through the search and the rescues and things like that. But at some point in time, the devil may rear its ugly head, if you know what I mean, Jawan. And so the good news is that there are effective ways to cope and treat stressful effects of trauma, but we just have to be aware of the many things that we can do. Things like loving your loved one who may be on the search and rescue team, or loving your loved one who may be there, a part of the search and rescue, the firefighters, the police officers who are there, allowing them to talk and not pushing them to talk. Also, what we have to do is we have to prioritize our self-care. Take care of yourself, as I was saying, and do things to help yourself relax, whether it's music therapy, art, meditation, and learn how to breathe.
Amen to that. And you know, we were talking a little bit earlier. We're talking about, you know, how family members are becoming frustrated. Some of them angry. But can you explain why anger, like this situation, why does grief sometimes turn into anger?
Because you don't know what else to do. There is just this sense of loss. And for many people, the most common reaction at times is one of anger. Jawan, think about a situation in your own personal life where something occurred. You may have felt disappointed. You may have felt wronged. The first emotion oftentimes we feel is anger. And that's the thing many of us learn how to cope with and prevent ourselves from going into that cycle of anger and irritability. You have to teach yourself that. And also, it depends on how you were raised and how you were reared and how you were taught to cope with stress. So oftentimes anger is the thing that seems to be the easiest emotion to feel and the easiest one to express and the most acceptable. Because when people see a man crying or see a man who looks down and depressed and sad, there's a stigma against that. There's a stigma against a man crying. But if a man is presenting with anger, Jawan, you and I have had this discussion before about depression in men and how it presents differently. Men oftentimes present with anger and irritability and not the sadness and the tearfulness because it's just not an acceptable emotion.
What about survivor's guilt? And what about those that may be watching this or those that maybe lived in the building? We're hearing some incredible stories of survival and those that were not in their unit at the time when it collapsed. Right now, it seems like they're fine. But what signs should they look out for?
It's all of the things that I mentioned, man, the disruption to your sleep. So maybe it's hard for you to fall asleep now. Maybe you wake up multiple times throughout the night. Perhaps you're having moments where you just feel so black or you're feeling blue, you feel sad. Maybe you're starting to get very tearful. Perhaps it's affecting the way you interact with your loved ones, your significant other, your children, the people on your job. You may have noticed a change in your appetite. Maybe you just don't want to eat. Maybe you don't feel like going outside of your home. You don't want to go anywhere. You've lost interest in doing the things that you would typically do to have fun or enjoy yourself or to pass time. So all of these things can be a sign that you're struggling and that you should seek professional help.
Amen to that. And again, I want to show the numbers. They've been running across your screen, but again, the numbers are there. They're right there. The Disaster Distress Helpline, 1-800-985-5990. That number, 1-800-995-9550. And then 5990, excuse me. And then, of course, the Florida 211 network call 211 numbers as well. So I think NSU has a number. We have the crisis text line as well. Again, we have the information for you there. Please take advantage of them. Dr. Delvina, thank you as always for coming on the show. Thank you for providing insight, just different things to look out for, because Lord knows we need it at this moment. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Jawan.
You got it. You got it. Thank you. Thank you so much. And also, we do have some more information here for you, because you heard from Commissioner Gilbert there. He was talking about ways to help out if you would like to help. So if you would like to make a donation to help those in need involved in the Surfside condo collapse, please head on over to our website at NBC6.com or check out the NBC6 app for a list of places you can make a donation at. You see right there, there's a number of organizations and they are helping those affected as well. So be sure to do that. And that's our show for tonight. But as you heard from the commissioner say just a short time ago, he said, just pray. Just pray. Pray for those. If you have faith, pray for those impacted, pray for those affected. And a big thank you for all of those volunteers out there, our first responders. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. 22,000 hours logged by all of them out there, the search and rescue crews. Thank you. They're out there on the scene right now as I'm doing this show. They're out there searching, and their goal is to rescue. So thank you to all of those that decided to tune in tonight and watch NBC6 Voices. I really appreciate you. And again, as you heard, what we can do now is pray. Have a good night.